This evening we are discussing continuing our series on fertility treatments, ART as it's known, assisted reproduction technology, and today we're going to be discussing a whole new line of technology which is for people who cannot go through IVF, IUI in a normal way, as we'll discuss in a second, and that is regarding donor eggs and surrogacy. So donor eggs and surrogacy are treatments that, as I mentioned, available for people who cannot do IUI, IVF for two reasons. So if sometimes there is a woman who doesn't have egg quality which is adequate for her to get pregnant herself. So regardless of how much IUI and IVF you're going to throw at her, it's not going to go anywhere. So in this case, what is often used is called donor eggs, where the husband's sperm is used, but a third-party egg is used with the husband's sperm, and then that's put back into the wife. She has a uterus, she just doesn't have good quality eggs. So that's called donor eggs. The second type of treatment used is called surrogacy. There are actually two types of surrogacy. One is absolutely problematic, which we're not even going to discuss, called traditional surrogacy. This involves essentially someone using someone else's wife in the classic sense to have his baby. So that we're not even going to deal with that one. But when we talk about surrogacy, we're talking about what's known as gestational surrogacy, which involves, this is for a woman who doesn't have a womb, is not able to carry, or for whatever reason is not able to carry a baby to term, but she has eggs, she has egg quality. So that means that she can use her eggs, the husband's sperm, just like with IVF, together, but instead of returning the product to her own uterus, which won't work, we return it to a third party, a surrogate mother. So these are obviously different than IVF and IUI for a variety of reasons, which we'll discuss. But the main reason is you're introducing a third party, as opposed to, which is going to be obviously problematic for a lot of reasons. So there's two parts to this which we're going to discuss. Today we're going to discuss the first, and then next week hopefully the second. The first part is, when you're introducing a third party, essentially there are two women involved here. The question is, who is the mother? And that's what we're going to discuss this evening. Who is the mother? Who is the halachic mother? We have a couple of options which we're going to go through. Very interesting topic. Who is the mother? And this has obviously lots of ramifications, and this will come to part two. Part two is, once we've decided who the mother is, who the halachic mother, I should emphasize that, who the halachic mother is, then we have to deal with, well, in that case, is it mutter to do this? Is it mutter to use donor eggs? Is it mutter to do surrogacy? That's A. B, if it is mutter, who should this third party be? And this will depend very much on the conclusions that we come to today and a couple of other factors. Who should be this third party surrogate if we're using surrogacy, or donor egg if we're allowing donor eggs? So today we're going to discuss who is the mother. So naturally, if we think about it, we have a couple of possibilities. We would think of usually two possibilities, you would think, right? Well, so that's possibility one. In the case of donor eggs, the one who let's put it differently. In the case, possibility one is the owner of the genetic material. Let's define it like that. In the case of the donor egg, it would be the one who donated the egg. In the case of surrogacy, it would be the people we want to have, the intended parents, the husband and the wife. They are the ones donating the genetic material. The surrogate mother is just simply carrying the baby to term. So one could go with that direction and say that it is the person who gave the genetic material who is the mother. One can go in the other direction and say it's the person who carries the baby to term, the person who gives birth to the baby, who is halachically the mother. There are actually, believe it or not, other possibilities which we're going to discuss. There's a possibility, perhaps, and we'll see if that's really a possibility, that both of them are mothers. Is there such a possibility where, this sounds very liberal and new age, and almost LGBTQ-esque, if I can use that term, but is there such a possibility of there being two mothers, essentially, shared responsibility, both of them having halachic significance to this baby? Is that a possibility? There's obviously a possibility, in theory at least, of neither of them being the mothers also, because neither of them has done the whole process. So one could say, at least theoretically, posit that neither of them are really the halachic mothers. Okay, so that is what we're going to explore today. I just want to emphasize also that this is, again, talking about who the halachic mother is. If you look at secular law with these cases, it gets very complex. there is no standard. Every state in the U.S., for example, has different laws whether they even allow surrogacy and donor eggs. Every country has its own practices, both ethical and legal, exactly what belongs where. Usually what happens is it goes down to the legal contracts. So basically, if you hire a surrogate, there's a whole nice long legalese involved of who is going to be the parent at the end, who has rights, who relinquishes their rights, and things like that. So it's really contractual and legal, as opposed to having any intrinsic decision as to who the mother actually is. But that is not the case in Halacha, and we're going to discuss that now. So let's look at the couple of I've given here a list of 8 Gemaras. There's more. This is a very exhaustive topic. I've tried to give the main makoros here that one can discuss. I also just want to introduce before I actually go into these, that Rosh Sternbuch, for example, and I've seen others write, that none of these sources are really fully resolve the question.
Yeah.
Okay? None of these, as we're going to go through them, you'll see one can argue against each of them. But these are the makoros. Obviously, there was no surrogates in the case in the times of Chazal. This is a new technology. But these are the makoros that various poskim bring, and let's go through them one by one. So number one is the well-known Gemara in Nida, Lamed Aleph Amud Aleph. The Gemara in Nida says, Tanu Rabbanan, Shlosha Shutfin Yesh Adam. There are 3 shutfin, 3 partners in the making of a person. Hakadosh Baruch Hu v'Aviv Imo. Okay. Aviv, what does the father do? Aviv mazriah haloben. He donates his part of the genetic material. Shemimenu atzmos v'gidim v'tziponayim u'moach shebarosho v'loben shba'ayin. Whatever this means in terms of Chazal, but the father has his part in physically creating the child based on the material that he's providing, obviously the sperm. Imo mazras odem. She provides, as it were, the blood, if you want, of the baby. Shemimenu or ubasar usaros ushchor sheba'ayin. Okay, she is providing the genetic material that forms a certain part of the baby. So simple reading of the Gemara, and this is usually, if you ask somebody who should be the mother, usually the answer is the person whose egg it is, the genetic material. After all, nowadays when we have DNA, after DNA was discovered, we know there is such a thing as genetic material. So it's very easy to identify who the mother is. It would make sense that the DNA that was provided for this baby should be the one to determine the mother. And that is what simple reading of this Gemara says. The mother provides a certain material. She is the mother. She provides the physical material as part of the baby. Okay, so that's a simple understanding. If that's the case, then we would say who's the mother? The mother is the one who provides the genetic material. Again, in the case of the donor egg, it would be the provider, the one who donated the egg. In the case of a surrogate, it will be the mother, what we would call the Jewish couple, the Jewish mother. Okay. However, that's not so simple, of course. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having a discussion. So, Rav Yosef Engel brings the following Gemara, number 2 here, to try and prove that the moment of when a woman becomes a mother, there's a specific moment when a woman becomes a mother. So let's look at this Gemara in Megillah.
Who's Rav Yosef Engel?
Rav Yosef Engel was in pre-war Europe. He was a Gaon Olam who wrote lots of Sfarim on Lamdus and Halachic issues. So one of his Sfarim, Beis HaOtzar, he writes on this topic. Who is the mother, or more accurately, he writes on the topic, at what point in time does a mother become a mother? At what point in time does a father become a father?
He wasn't addressing the issue of surrogacy.
He was not in addition, because that wasn't existent. He was not. He was dealing with the issue of what point in time is someone called a mother or a father, which is going to be relevant to this. So he quotes the following Gemara in Megillah, and it's actually very apropos. We're a month before Purim Katan today, or was yesterday. Shushan Purim Katan. That will work. So the pasuk in the Megillah Esther tells us, Uvemos aviha v'ima, right? That Esther's father and mother died. So the Gemara says, Amar Avacha, Ibarta meisavia. As soon as her mother got pregnant with her, her father died. Yaladta meisima, either at childbirth or immediately after childbirth, her mother died. Or actually it means at childbirth, her mother died. Okay? So Rashi explains, just very interesting. Rashi says the following. When she got pregnant, her father died. Nimtza, shelo haya la'av, misha shenira lehikarus av. That means she never really had a father. That's what the pasuk says. She didn't have a father and a mother. Therefore, Mordechai took her under his care. Right? So, because she, at the time of pregnancy, essentially, the father died. She had no father. In other words, what determines at what point in time does someone become a father? At that time of pregnancy. If we think about it, this makes a lot of sense. That's the only time, really, where a father really has an interaction to produce the baby. That makes sense. Continues Rashi. U'chshiyaladata ima mesa. And when at childbirth, her mother died. Says Rashi, V'lo nir'es likros ein. And therefore, because she didn't go through childbirth and actually give birth to her properly, she died before the end of childbirth, therefore she never really had a mother. So why didn't she have a mother? Because at the time she got pregnant, she had a mother.
Yeah, but we're saying based on, I just learned this a few weeks ago, by the way. Based on this Rashi, you're saying she didn't have a mother?
Yes, so that's what the Gemara says. Yeah.
I could bring a big kasha on this.
Just 1 second. So let's just finish what Rabbi Yosef Engel says before. So it says Rabbi Yosef Engel, you see from this, at least the way Rashi is understanding the Gemara, that at what point in time determines when a mother is a mother? Childbirth. Okay. It is childbirth that makes you a mother, not conception.
What about father?
Father, according to Rashi, is conception. It makes you a father.
Good. I don't have a kasha. I was going to bring
a kasha. That's what Rashi said.
I was going to bring a kasha from Yevamos.
Right.
From the of Yibum.
We're going to get to that in a second. That's our next case.
Because if a woman becomes pregnant and then her husband dies before she gives birth, she doesn't have to do Yibum with
well, this is a huge machlokas haposkim nowadays. I just tell you, in terms of, so what you can do, as you may know with fertility treatments, what you can do is once you have an egg, once you have an embryo, you can freeze it, cryopreservation. You can freeze it, and then later you can put it back in. So what happens? You can do that, okay?
I'm talking about before.
Just 1 second. So I know you're talking about before IVF. So I'm just going to explain why this has even starker applications nowadays. What happens in Chas v'Shalom? Someone is in the middle of treatment. So they have an embryo waiting on the side, and Chas v'Shalom, the husband dies. Yeah. Are you allowed now, A, are you allowed to implant this embryo? B, now that he has died, would it be considered retroactively that his kid? Or not? These are very interesting questions.
That's for the
of course it is. But at what point in time does he become the father?
At conception.
So what Rabbi Yosef Engel says, it's very clear from this Gemara, the conception is the point in time when the father becomes not at childbirth. The father becomes the father at conception because that is the one point in time where he has anything to do with it.
Yeah.
Whereas by the mother, no, it's childbirth. So Rabbi Yosef Engel says, childbirth is the time when a mother becomes a mother. If that is the case, some want to posit, based on this, that at what point in time does the mother become a mother? It's the mother who gives birth to the child. Okay. Therefore, not the mother who donated the egg, not the mother who has the genetic material. It's the mother who gives birth who becomes the mother, because it's childbirth that renders you the mother. That's what some want to claim based on Rabbi Yosef Engel. Now, you could dispute this. You could say
maybe in both.
Right. You could say it is childbirth is the time when the mother becomes the mother, but who is the mother? That Rabbi Yosef Engel wasn't talking about. Yes, you're not a mother until childbirth, but maybe it's the person who gave the genetic material. Rabbi Yosef Engel isn't dealing, nor is this Gemara in Megillah, dealing with who is the mother. Only the time of the label of mother being relevant. So one could disagree with this, but some bring this as a proof that it is the point, whoever is carrying the baby, whoever gives birth to the child is the one who is the mother, not the one who provided the genetic material, if they happen to be two different people, obviously. Okay.
And by the way, I just see, all you have is Gemaras here. I don't see you have any Achronim here.
I'm filling in.
Okay.
Filling in because there'll be too much to put on this sheet.
I'm just wondering if we're going to get any conclusions.
We are. We're going to try. Okay. Next Gemara. If we're talking about Yibum, here's a good one. Yeah. Yibum. So this Rizam Nechemia brings this proof. Rizam Nechemia brings this proof in Tchumen and Asya. He brings this as a proof that it is again the mother who gives birth, who is the mother, and not the mother who provided the genetic material, if they happen to be two different people. He brings the following Gemara. Yevamis daf tzadi zayin on base. So the Gemara tells us there, Shnei achim ta'omim, two twins, two brothers. Gerim. In theory, if they're twins, we know they came from the same mother and same father, right? So they came from the same mother and father. V'chein meshuchrarin. Okay, Gerim, they became Gerim. Lo choltzim v'lo miyapim. They are not considered.
What does it mean?
If they happen to be Eved Meshuchra. Okay. Same thing, they essentially become Gerim. Lo choltzim v'lo miyapim. They don't have a din of brothers as far as Yibum and Chalitza. Why not? Because once they become Gerim, they have lost any yichus to their fathers. So they are not fathers from their brothers from their father. As far as Yibum, what is important is you have the same father. Ve'ein chayavim mishum eshes ach. But they're also not brothers from the mother in order to make them chayav mishum eshes ach. In other words, they are not related from their mother, that they can't marry each other's. They can't marry the wife of their brother if the brother passes away. They're not related from the mother either at that point, because obviously when they became Gerim, they lost all yichus from the father and the mother. Great. Now, the case which is relevant to us.
The brothers from another mother.
Indeed.
One second, I don't get this. But meaning that
they are not considered related from the mother either.
Yeah.
Because they became Gerim after they were born. So they are now, as far as we're concerned, two totally different people. No, just like we know, at Gerim, they lost their family connections.
So what does that mean?
They are not considered to be brothers from their father or their mother. They are individuals not related.
What's Ashes? What would mean?
One of the Isurim in the Torah is that a person is not allowed to marry the wife of his brother.
Okay, but
what
if
defines
the brother dies, you're saying?
Yes, obviously. Well, obviously not when the brother
dies.
Or no, if they are divorced.
Yeah,
One cannot marry their ex-sister.
The ex, exactly. Yes, either.
But wait a second. If a guy dies, his brother can't marry his wife.
No. So if he dies, you have case of Yibum, obviously.
Yeah.
But outside of the case of Yibum, correct.
What Joe Biden's kids did? Can't do it.
I don't know what he did.
Oh, Joe Biden's kids did this?
His son died, and the one brother divorced his wife and married their sister.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
But you'll have to...
Okay. Right.
So, all right.
So, in other words, the point of this Gemara is, just to without going too much into staying too long on this, is that they are not related. When they become Gerim, the two brothers are now not related. Okay. But, and this is the important line for us, Haisa harasan shelo b'kedusha. Number 3 here. Haisa harasan shelo b'kedusha. I know you missed the introduction here. We'll try and fill in. Haisa harasan shelo b'kedusha. But if they were pregnant together, in other words, they were in utero, v'leidasam b'kedusha. But their mother became a giores while she was pregnant with them, so they are now born as Jews. And look at this halacha. Lo choltzim v'lo miyabmim. They still cannot do chalitza and yibum because they are not considered to be brothers from their father. And why? Because at what point in time is the father determined? At conception. At conception, they weren't Jewish. Now they became Gerim. They are not related from their father anymore. About chayavim mishum eshes ach. But they are still related as far as the isurim of eshes ach. In other words, they are still related from their mother. Why would that be? They're Gerim. The answer is, what point in time makes you related from your mother? Or what point in time is a woman considered to be the mother to her children? Childbirth. At childbirth, they were both Jewish. At childbirth, they are now considered brothers. So says the Zalman Achemer from this.
Then there should also have to be miyavnim and choltzim.
Because chalit and yibum is dependent on being brothers from the father.
Oh, half brothers don't do it?
Correct.
Half brothers from the mother.
Yeah. I mean, in that type of half sibling. Yeah. So you see, says the Zalman Achemer from this Gemara, that what point in time determines when a woman becomes a mother? Childbirth, not conception. If that's the case, says the Zalman Achemer, what point in time should determine, or what point determines when a mother becomes a mother? Childbirth. What's important to us then is the woman, the birthing mother. The birthing mother, the woman who gives birth, is the mother, regardless of the genetic material.
So according to this svara, the surrogate mother is the real mother.
The surrogate mother is the real mother, not the one who provided the egg. And in the case of egg donor, not the egg donor,
But
the owner
the
who provided the donor egg, but the one who actually gave birth.
So in terms of determining if somebody's Jewish or not.
Yes, correct. Or with all the ramifications involved with this. And there's a lot of ramifications, which we'll deal with hopefully next week. So part one this week is, what is the halachic status of who is the mother? And then next week is, what are the ramifications of that as far as actually doing surrogacy and egg donors and things like that? And who should be the surrogate, who should be the egg donor based on our conclusions today? Okay? So number one here, just a very quick recap. Number one here is the Gemara Nida seems to imply that it's the genetic material that determines the mother. Okay? Whoever provided the genetic material, she is the mother, in which case we look at the genetic material, not the budding mother. 2 and 3 here seem to imply no, that the point in time that a woman becomes a mother, and again, all of these can be argued, and they are argued, but the point in time that when a mother becomes a mother is childbirth. So therefore, the mother at childbirth is the mother. Okay? In this case, the surrogate, again, depending on what the situation is, yes, surrogate and egg donor is going to be different. Another interesting Gemara is brought down by a tshuva called the Even Yekara. The Even Yekara wrote about 100 years ago, plus minus, and he writes about a new technology in his time. I didn't know this really existed in his time, but he writes about it, called uterine transplants. This is something that is done nowadays.
Where did he live?
100 years ago, 100 something years ago.
Yeah,
I didn't know I thought it was a more modern technology, but this is what he writes.
I don't think that's done today. I think there are case reports are specific. I think there was one.
So maybe it was done then and not done anymore, you're saying?
Yeah, I don't know that the technology works.
So I don't know actually if it's done or not done. That I can't tell you. Number 4. So I don't know if it's done or not done. But he writes the following question. What happens if someone who doesn't have a womb, essentially, or cannot give birth, if they transplant, and again, I don't know if we're talking about postmortem, I have no idea exactly the details, but if you transplant a uterus from one woman to another, and now she has a baby, who is the mother? Do you say, well, I mean, she's holding the baby, woman B is holding the baby, or do you say, no, the uterus that's holding the baby came from somebody else, so she should be the mother? So he writes there in this tshuva, interesting question. He writes that it's very clear, he says, that it's the mother who has the transplanted uterus inside her that is the mother. We don't look at where the uterus came from previously. We're not interested. This is just, obviously has ramifications for transplants in general, although I can't think of too many halachic nafkaminas. But he says, no, it's transplanted, it's in the new woman, she is now the mother. She is now the mother. Why? So he brings a proof from a Gemara in Sota. The Gemara says that if you have, we know we're living in Eretz Yisrael, if you have a tree that is not producing, it's an older tree. Okay, an older tree that's 20 years old. My great uncle is the head of very extensive avocado plantations in a place called Mashuat Yitzchak, and he's shown me this many times how they graft trees together. So you have an old avocado tree that isn't producing fruit. So what do you do to make it produce fruit? You cut off a branch in a special way from a young tree, okay, and you graft it on to the old tree, and they sort of merge together, and now, well, lo and behold, the new tree is now producing fruits again. So that's what you do, grafting, okay? So the question is, 1 second, the old tree was 20 years old, no problems of orla. The new tree is 2 years old, problems of orla. Any fruit that grows off this branch, is it rendered orla? Do you have to do orla, netzerevai, whatever it is? Is it orla? So the Gemara says no. Amar Abavahu, Yalda shesibcha bizkena. If you take a young tree and you graft it up with a old tree, batla yalda bizkena.
It's nourished from the...
Right. It essentially becomes batal to where you transplanted it to. It's merged together. Batla yalda bizkena. Ain't batin orla. There's no orla.
We're trying to learn about uterine transplants from agriculture.
I know. Yeah, I agree with you. No, but the concept is, and at least this is how Tosfos understands this in Avodah Zarah, the concept is that when you have one large being and transplant something small into it and it merges together, it becomes batal. It becomes batal to the larger entity.
And it takes being fruitful to a whole new level.
Oh boy, indeed. So says the Even Yekara, if that's the case, he says the same thing should apply here. The uterus is transplanted from someone who, literally a yalda, someone who, again, I don't know the situation, transplanted from one woman where it's a healthy uterus to someone who basically cannot have kids, it now merges in. It now becomes bottle to the older woman, and therefore it is now her uterus as far as we're concerned. We don't say no, it's Mrs. X's uterus. It's your uterus now. It's transplanted. It's merged in.
When you have any sort of transplant, I mean, the understanding is that it becomes part of your
100%.
body.
That's exactly what he's saying.
Yeah.
That's exactly what he's saying. So that is as far as uterine transplant. So in other words, in that case, we don't look at the uterus, like the thickness of the uterus. Say, okay, that's somebody else's. No, it's part of your body. So says the Tzitz Eliezer. Therefore, same thing. When we're talking about transplanting a embryo from, in this case, a petri dish, but from a test tube baby, or as we say, IVF, right? We're transplanting it and putting it into the mother. It now merges into the mother, it grows into the uterus, implants in the uterus. It is now botel to the mother. It is now part of the mother. Therefore, says the Tzitz Eliezer, based on this, same idea. It's merged into the mother. It is implanted in the mother. Therefore, it's the birthing mother, says Eliezer, who is the mother. Okay, and he adds to this argument in a variety. Sorry,
it's not her genetic material.
It's not her genetic material. She's a surrogate, but we don't care. It is now merged into her. It's implanted in her. It is now part of her.
And who's the father?
Whoever the father is, it doesn't really make a difference in this case. But usually in surrogacy, it's the same. It's
the surrogate is an Ish. Like.
What we're going to get to who the surrogate should be next time, based on what we're saying here. That's a whole big machlokas who the surrogate should be. But based on this idea, to tell you the same thing. Who is the mother? It is the person who gives birth, not the person with the genetic material. Okay, so both Razal Menachemia and the Tzitz Eliezer, Zalchan Goldberg and the Tzitz Eliezer, both say the Yoledes, it's the birthing mother who is the one who is the mother, not the person who donated the genetic material. There's actually a very interesting, you'll see this, you'll find this quite funny. There's an interesting proof that is brought down by other Sfarim, call it the proof, call it the Nagadza, it's an Nagadza, which says the following. It speaks about Rachel and Leah. You might know this Medrash. The Medrash says that Rachel and Leah, we should start with the Gemara in Brachos number 6. The pasuk says, "Va'achar yolda bas." After Leah gave birth to Yisachar and Zvulun, "Va'achar yolda bas," and then it doesn't say Vatahar, it says Va'achar. After that, she gave birth to a bas. Says the Gemara, "Va'achar yolda bas v'tikra shmo Dina." This is Brachos Daf Samach Amud Aleph. My Va'achar. What's Va'achar mean? Amar Rav, la'achar shadana Leah din ba'atzma va'amra. She said, I've got 6 kids. Shnei masar shvatim atim netes mi Yaakov. There's supposed to be 12 shvatim. Shisha yatzu mimeni. I've already had 6. Va'arba min hashvachos. And the 2 shvachos have already had 4. Hari asar. Im zeh zachar. If now my pregnancy is going to be a boy, lo tiachosi Rachel ka'achas hashvachos. My sister Rachel won't even have like one of the shvachos. Miyad, says the Gemara, nefcha labas. The baby in her uterus turned into from a boy to a girl. Shenema v'tikra es shema dina. Like din. Right. Okay? That's what the Gemara says. So the Gemara is speaking about that way you're allowed to daven for the baby to change sex. So the Gemara says, "Hey, maskin masin nisim." You can't bring a proof from that. That's a masin nisim. You can't bring a proof from that a baby can change sex in the middle. That's a masin nisim. V'bai seiman. The Gemara then says, "Ma'aseh Leah b'tuch arba'im yom have." No, that was the whole thing with Leah was before 40 days, which we're going to discuss in a second. Okay. So according to the Gemara in Brachos, what happened in this case? And this is a Gazza, obviously. Not Yosef, a baby, the Zachar, changed into a Nekeva, called Dinah. And then Rachel had 2 kids, as we know, 2 boys. Okay. If you look at number 5, the Targum Yonasan ben Uziel has a different version of this story. What does the Targum say? Oshmiya min kedam Hashem tzlusa de Leah. Hashem heard the davening of Leah. V'ischalafu ubaraya b'mei ehon. And the pregnancy of Leah switched with the pregnancy of Rachel. V'hava Yahiv Yosef bim'aha de Rachel. And Leah was pregnant with Yosef, and the embryo got placed in Rachel. V'Dina bim'aha de Leah. And Dinah, Rachel was really supposed to have a girl, but Dinah's embryo got transferred to Leah. Who was Yosef's mother? Anybody?
She's considered B'nai Rachel.
Rachel, for sure. And who was Leah's mother? Dinah's mother, so was Leah. So, some Sfarim want to bring a proof here, you see. that it's not the genetic material, clothing, it's not the conception, it is whoever gives birth is the mother. Now this is, I think we will all agree, a weak proof, because first of all, bringing proof from Agadatha in general, there's no debate on this, and whether you can bring proof from Agadatas. So everyone will agree this is a weak proof, but it's an interesting one. Because that I think we all agree, it's an interesting one. So this is the only example that I know of. Actually, it's not true. It's brought down also. I think Tosfos brings down that perhaps Shaul ben Aknanis has something to do with it. Let's leave that out for now. Let's not deal with that. But basically, it's an interesting idea that you can have a transfer of embryos, and who is the mother? The mother is the one who gives birth. So this is brought down for that also. Okay, Rav Goren, number 7 here. Rav Goren brings a proof. Rav Goren has a couple of svarim we discussed in the Choshen Mishpat shir on Sunday. Rav Goren has a famous sefer called Meshiv Milchama, where he deals with the laws of engagement, laws of war, and ethics of war and things like that. He has another sefer called Torah HaRefuah. As you can probably guess, that it's to do with medical halacha. So in there he brings a proof the other way, that it's the time of conception that is the time that makes you the mother, and therefore that's what determines. In other words, when it was conception? Conception it's the egg. The conception is taking place outside of the birthing mother. Therefore, the one who provides the genetic material would be, perhaps that would be the one who's the mother. So he brings down an interesting conversation.
Did Rav Goren address issues of surrogacy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was what was he died in the mid-90s.
Yeah. Surrogacy. And so all of this started in the 80s. This is all from the 80s.
Okay, so he was still alive.
Mid-80s. 86, I think, was the first surrogacy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So, interesting conversation here. Sanhedrin Tzadiyah from the base. The Gemara says, "V'amalei Antoninus l'Rebbe." Antoninus, who was best buds with Rebbe, said to Rebbe, "Neshama me'emasai nisna ba'adam." At what point in time does the neshama get placed inside? Very interesting question. At what point in time does the neshama get placed inside a baby? B'shas p'kida, is it from conception that this baby has a neshama, or mishas yitzira, or is it from yitzira when the baby is formed, i.e. It's a good question what this means exactly. Does it mean 40 days? Does it mean when the 9 months? But whatever this means, it means later. So Amalei, he said, Mishas Yitzira.
And it's also before birth too, right?
Well, so it's not clear whether it means childbirth or what Shas Yitzira means exactly. When the baby is fully formed, it's not clear. But he said Mishas Yitzira. So Amalei, so he responded back, you're going to tell me that this thing is alive and kicking, but there's no neshama? Huh? Ela mishas pkida. At what point in time does the neshama come into the baby, and at what point in time is the baby a baby? Mishas pkida, from conception. So Rav Goren wants to say also, you see from here that it's the point of conception that determines that the baby becomes a baby to its father and the mother. And again, this is a very weak proof also, because it doesn't mention anything about the father or the mother in this, right? Maybe the baby's a baby, we don't determine the father and mother yet. But the baby becomes a baby, mishas pkida, from the time of conception. So he wants to say, Rav Goren wants to say that, and Rav Nebenzahl says this, and supposedly Rav Shlomo Zalman said this, that it is the time of conception that determines the mother, not the time of childbirth.
I think he said Rav Shlomo Zalman said birth.
Rav Zalman Nechemia, his son-in-law, said birth. Okay, so you have a total split here. Okay, finally, we've got 5 minutes. We can't stop without having a very funny third opinion. It's not funny. It's a very serious, but it sounds funny. Sure. So the last one is, can there possibly be a situation where we say there are multiple fathers and mothers? As I mentioned before, this sounds very new age. Can you have multiple, groovy? Can you have multiple fathers and mothers? So Rosh Sternbuch says he feels he brings down this poskim this way, this poskim that way, as we've just seen, and he says he feels we should consider both mothers to be the mother. And you say both mothers to be the mother? How is that shaykh? So he brings down a Gemara in Sota, and that's Membeis Amar Beis. The Gemara in Sota is discussing Goliath. By Goliath it says, the description that the Navi tells us that he was called Ish HaBeinaim. Ish HaBeinaim. What was Ish HaBeinaim? So there's like 5 pirushim there in the Gemara, what Ish HaBeinaim means. One of the pirushim is the following. Rabbi Yochanan says, Bar Mea Papi V'chada Nani. That night, his mother, essentially, we'll do it Lashon Nikia, slept around with 100 people. Yes. She slept around with 100 people. So there were 100 nani, 100, what nani means, 100 papi means, not 100, it's funny, we would think it means 100 fathers. No. So Rashi understands, mea papi means 100 people who weren't the father, v'chadanani, and one father. Okay, one of those was the one who impregnated her. We don't know who. There's one father, 100. Tosfos says exactly the opposite. Totally different. Says Tosfos, mashma shekulan mea hayu avosav. He actually had 100 fathers. That's what it means. He had literally papi. It's funny. He had 100 puppies.
This is about Goyas?
Yeah. He had 100 puppies. Okay? Masha bekulan mea hayu avosav. 100 fathers. Shari mikulan nisabra imo. I'm not going to talk about the biological reality here, but at least the way Tosfos understands it, we consider him to have 100 fathers. V'lo kaperish Rashi, sheperish v'chadnani shechad mehem aviv. So according to Tosfos, you have a situation where in theory you could have multiple fathers. The same baby could have multiple fathers.
Is that out of suffix who the real one is, though?
Not clear.
Because by...
not clear. So that's not clear what Tosfos means. Yeah. We would say out of suffix. So Rosh Sternbuch says if you can have 100 fathers in that situation, who says you can't have 100 mothers? Okay, in that case, 2 mothers. But in theory, at least, okay, you can't have 100 mothers. Doesn't work the same way. But at least you can have 2 mothers. If you're not sure, perhaps both of them are mothers. This one because she provided the genetic material. This one because she gave birth. Perhaps both of them are mothers. We have to consider both of them mothers.
If one is Jewish and one is that, then what?
Okay, this is exactly the point which we're going to get to next week. You have to choose your surrogate mothers and your egg donors very carefully based on how you understand this.
There's also issues of Ashes Ish and whatever.
We're going to get to that next week. Right, 100%. So you missed the beginning here. Rav Sternbuch in the same tshuva writes, all the sources that we have for surrogacy and egg donors in Chazal, as you can see, doesn't exist. Usually, in the olden days till about 30 years ago, the same mother gave birth as the same mother who conceived, right? So we don't have many makoros. So Rav Sternbuch writes, all the makoros we have for and against and this and that are all very weak makoros. At the end of the day, it boils down to a lot of svara, which is why he writes, you have to assume that both of them are mothers. L'chumra, which we're going to speak about. Rosh Shlomo Zalman and Rav Elyashiv, even though they had their own opinions, we said Rosh Shlomo Zalman, it seems, Neventhal quotes him at least, as saying that it's the person who provided the genetic material as being the mother. But Lamaisa, he also said you have to be machmir that both of them are the mothers. Because we don't know. All the makuros that we have here, as you can see, most of them are gadata and are very weak.
I guess I'll talk, but what does machmir mean in this case?
Oh, so it's going to be machmir as far as who you can marry, yichud, yibum, chalitza. What else did you just mention? You mentioned Basko. I mean, there's right.
To be machmir, he keeps Shabbos, or to be machmir, he doesn't keep Shabbos. One woman.
As far as geirus, a lot of other things. We'll discuss that next week. We're not going to have time now. Discuss next week. So basically, there's 3 main opinions. There's a 4th opinion, which, if I have 1 minute, which says that it's not the time of conception, but it's where the embryo is at 40 days that determines. Rashal Yisraeli writes this, that it's the time of where the baby is at 40 days. Why 40 days?
Implantation.
Because 40 days, before 40 days, the embryo is considered Maya Ba'alma. We saw this in the Gemara in Brachos. The embryo is considered Maya Ba'alma. What point in time does the embryo become an embryo as far as we're concerned? 40 days. So wherever the embryo is at 40 days, that is the mother. So usually with surrogacy and egg donors, the embryo is well implanted by that time. So it's going to be the surrogate or whoever is the birthing mother. But it's, in theory, if you could have a situation where you transplanted after 40 days, that would be the nafkamina. Okay, so we have a variety of opinions here. As I said, most poskim hold l'chumra, Rosh Shlomo Zalman, Rav Elyashiv, but there are those who said straight out, it's the birthing mother. Rizal Nechemia, he also was machmir in the end, but Tzitz Eliezer straight out said birthing mother. And those who said straight out, it was the genetic mother. The ramifications for this are going to be very large. We'll discuss that next week.